we'll get started. We have Sudheesh, right? So Sudheesh is Senior Director for Tanzu Kubernetes, also a site head. And he would like to address us before we get started, and then we'll get through with the rest of the talks, right? So Sudheesh.
Can you all hear me? Okay, perfect. Yeah, like it was told, I think the India-Pak match clearly is impacting the large audience, perhaps you would have expecting. But I think, don't worry, we're going to get the updates. So let me a little bit talk about, I think Humble asked me to talk, and first of all, welcome all of you, right? So first of all, welcome all of you. And just in case if you don't know, this is a sustainability event, obviously, and we are also sitting in one of the sustainable buildings in Bangalore. So we have the LEED V4 Platinum certification for this building. Supposed to be one of the, I think, prestigious one for the sustainable efforts in terms of energy efficiency and then sustainable responsibility, across facility management and so on, right? So that's one. Then I thought maybe it's worth a little bit talking about what we as VMware is doing in the sustainability space across engineering practices to products to how we are helping our customers. So first thing, a little bit rewinding to 1999. When we started VMware, obviously the whole virtualization itself, in my mind, like a huge sustainability effort. So before VMware, you all know, everything was running in a physical infrastructure with physical servers, utilizing huge amount of capacity in terms of power and so on, right? Data center space and so on. Now with virtualization technology, we got all of this to mostly like virtual machines, and then it saved like ton of like, data center capacity, efficiency, power, and so on. So that was our first attempt towards the sustainability. Then if we fast forward, I'm specifically talking about what we're doing in the Tanzu portfolio, which is the container management platform across private, public, and cloud. If you see, we have the develop, operate, and optimize areas. So within develop, which is predominantly focusing on like developers like all of you, what we are trying to do is helping the developers develop applications or create application that consumes less carbon in terms of efficiency and then carbon usage and so on, right? So this is across all the way from your architecture to design and then develop and test and so on, basically there, right? So that's baked into the product itself, basically, in our develop portfolio. Now, if I talk about the operate portfolio, which is predominantly about like once you have an application, how do you actually run it on a data center and then sort of and so on, right? So in operate, if you see, we have built capabilities in our product where you can actually use our product, obviously, to improve the IT infrastructure and optimize it. The second one is mostly about, like, for example, we have built capabilities like green scores, which is like, okay, for any sustainability goal you can't, for that matter, any goal you can't achieve without even knowing your baseline and what you're doing and where you are, right? So these green scores, in a way, help our customers to know where they are in terms of their sustainability efforts across their workload efficiency or utilization or hardware efficiency and so on, and then track this over a period of time to see how they are improving, right? So that's one of the efforts, basically. Other thing, through our multi-cloud portfolio, what we are trying to do is we help our customers to know how the data centers are underneath sort of operating in terms of, are these running on, let's say, energy efficient, like power, right? Are these running on, like, for example, water cool technologies, for example? So it'll detect and let the customers know, hey, this data center in, let's say, in London, this is running using so-and-so technology. And this one, maybe perhaps in US, it's running so-and-so technology or so-and-so power utilization. It helps our customers to sort of move the workloads accordingly. And even I worked in my previous company where we were literally using water to cool down CPUs and GPUs. There are like water tubes built in that goes inside the server. It cools down the servers and then all the components and so on, basically, right? Data centers are built on the seashore. So you actually use the wind to cool down the servers, and you don't use air conditioning in these data centers. So we want to make sure like our products give sort of recognize those data centers and customers make the choice, right? That's on the operate. Lastly, on the optimize, obviously we use metrics and dashboards and so on for customers to know how they're doing in terms of the dashboarding and so on. Also, we use like analytics to optimize the usage and so on, basically, right? Like think about like the number of servers that's lying idle in many of our environments. Think about the tools. Let's say if you use like so many tools, which can be optimized across like one group, tools and infrastructure and so on. So like tons of efforts there happening, right? Lastly, I don't want to drag. So we have something called sustainability engineering circles and practices. So this is something, for example, we are doing two things, right? One is more of an internal. So we have sustainability engineering circles where a lot of this is also to do with the mindset and culture, practices and so on, basically, right? Promoting all of that. So that way we are aware of these, right? So that way more people talk about it and you get more involvement. And you're going to hear more of this in the coming, next set of sessions, basically, right? And then we also have externally where we are partnering with the universities, where we are talking about these efforts, basically. So that way the new generation sort of coming in, they're like much more aware of how do you actually write better code, how do you operate, and so on, basically. So these are little efforts we are doing from VMware, so thought it's worth talking about it. Again, first of all, thank you, and thank you for showing up on a day where we have a match, very interesting match going on, but it's still good to see all of you here. And I'm sure it's going to be worth listening to the next set of interesting sessions, and you're going to learn something which you can take it back and then implement in your sort of a day job or whatever you're doing it in this space. Thank you very much.
And must be at the frontier of digital innovation and digital transformation. To be cloud smart, you have to be sustainable. There is no compute, there's no cloud if there's no power. And the reality is that the ITC sector consumes about 3% of global power consumption, and that number is going in one direction.
Now with the advent of a lot of emerging technologies, we see AI, blockchain, crypto, those use huge amounts of energy. And so if we want to keep fulfilling the promise of these technologies in the future, we need to make sure that the systems that are supporting them are sustainable.
As customers around the world are trying to figure out how to be better stewards of this planet we share, it's becoming a decision-making process for everyone, not only on the way they consume, but the way they produce their services.
Climate change is going to impact all businesses, like our way of life, right? It's going to make many things much, much more costly, make other things economically unviable. And so that's going to have a profound impact on the business landscape.
For us, sustainability has been not only a part of our culture, but a fundamental part of our business strategy. And that has two components to it. One is how do we build and operate the most sustainable company and organization? And then secondly, how do we enable innovation that serves the sustainability needs of our customers?
When we first started and we introduced virtualization, the sustainability advantage was almost inherent.
We've saved over 1.2 billion metric tons of carbon aggregate across all of our customers. But the reality is, while that's a great thing, we're certainly helping to move the needle, it's not enough. And what you see from us coming out with is a really, really strong roadmap around sustainability.
We like to say at VMware we're intrinsically green, and truly we've done this since our inception.
It's more of a culture. It's the way you do things, and it's embedded in your mindset. Whatever we do, whatever we build, whatever we talk about, has some green goals, right?
And of course, the commitment is having ESG in the office of the CTO, so we can collaborate closely together.
And that's a really unique thing, I think, compared to most any other company you see out there. The ESG organization is almost never inside of engineering.
Sustainability is embedded into all our products.
We're improving visibility into a customer's environment through something we call the VMware Green Score, building that into ARIA.
And a lot of our customers and partners are even starting to baseline what their carbon footprint is. And so we want to make sure that they have visibility into how much energy consumption their workloads are using.
We're working with telcos to drive down 5G costs, working with ESX to drive more efficient server energy usage, to look at, from a cluster standpoint, bringing back distributed power management in a vSAN-enabled world. At a data center level, looking at using ML techniques to automate and optimize data center cooling and the energy that's used for that. Looking at it from a geographical perspective, to actually, with our multi-cloud architecture, to move workloads to different geographic regions to where energy is the most renewable, where you've got the most wind, solar, what have you.
What's great now is that sustainability is embedded into every process, actually not just of innovation, but every process of our operation as a company.
For example, in our real estate portfolio, committing to green buildings and installing on-site renewable energy. Then there's integrating sustainability into your procurement process. So thinking about our supply chain.
What I hope that in the future that people really think sustainability is a business model. Without that, you should not even have a sustainable business.
The future of sustainable innovation is really going to require a lot of engagement with all pieces of the ecosystem. This is definitely something we have to do with our partners. It's definitely something we have to do with our customers.
That was a wonderful video about VMware's efforts towards sustainability. Thank you, Sudheesh, for addressing the gathering.